Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WrestleHorror.
Greetings, viewers and listeners. Meathook, Jim here, the WrestleHorror podcast. With me, as always, Donnie Hoover. Donnie, it's the middle of winter, and we're supposed to get some snow tonight. What's up, man?
I know. I definitely ain't looking forward to that. Man, doing pretty good. Just seeing being busy. We finished up that HauntCon presentation and getting a lot of good feedback from that. So I've just been busy on focusing on coming up with some courses and some material for that.
And I noticed a new microphone in the screen up there.
Yeah, I had to splurge. I'm trying to get as professional as I can, or I act like I look like I know what I'm doing. so I bought me the Rode Podcaster mic, and so far it seems pretty good. I'm just trying to sound as good as I can. That's all.
Now, on this chilly Saturday, we are welcoming back a previous guest of the show, friend to New Ohio Wrestling and WrestleHorror, Big Tom Williams, War Wrestling. Tom, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Awesome, man. It's I'm in the warmest room in my house, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I can see that. That's one of those things. Like I actually like the winter, so I'm okay with the cold weather. So
yeah, I don't mind the cold too much. It's the snow and the ice I could do without.
Yeah,
if we could have a winter like last year every year to where we only had like one small snowfall, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the big thing. Well, the main thing for us up this way is I'm sure it's down there in Columbus too. People don't know how to drive in the weather.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In Columbus, they don't know how to drive any time.
But other than that, I'm doing good, guys.
I actually had to learn how to drive because I was raised in Florida. So that's why I like the cold so much. But I've been up here for 13 years now, so I think I've kind of gotten used to it.
Yeah, but you still probably are like, man, why did I move back up here?
I question that every winter. But on the flip side, during the summer, I'm like, okay, at least I'm not sweating buckets with 100% humidity in August.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's funny you say that because my wife we had just talked about like moving someplace or whatever. She said something about like Georgia or something, and I was like, as long as it's northern Georgia, we're good, because you get down in southern Georgia, you can't even walk outside your house. You know what I mean? In the summer. So it's like, no, I'm still fat, man. I ain't walking outside with 100% humidity. It was bad enough when we went to Vegas. I went to Vegas a couple years in like July, and we went out there for bowling and stuff, and literally we was checking out, and we checked out, but we still wanted to eat lunch. So we checked out or whatever. I took the bags out to the car. Me and a buddy took all the bags out. We was basically gone about 20 minutes from going to take our bags and then coming back and eating lunch. And it's midday, and I could literally wring my shirt out of how bad I was sweating. And I said, these people talk about it's a dry heat out here. I said, I don't give a crap what it is. It's 110 degrees and you're going to sweat. So I don't really care, because everybody goes like, oh, it's a dry heat. It's dry. No offense. 110 degrees is 110 degrees. I don't care if it's dry or not, And what did we do? We said, we vowed, we'll never do it again in the summer. It's too hot or whatever. Guess what we're doing in June, Donnie?
Going back.
Going back in June. And the only reason we're doing it this time is because it's the kids are all the rest of our crew for the bowling, they have kids, so the kids are out for school. You know what I mean? So I get it, I understand that, but it's like, man, I'm literally gonna be like, I'm gonna rent a car and I'm gonna go to the hotel and I'm never leaving until I'm coming back. You know what I mean? Like, it's way too hot, but
right.
That's what it is,
We'll just have to make do with the cold up here and move forward, won't we?
Yes, sir.
So, Donnie, I know you and I were discussing some questions for Tom. Why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, for sure. And, like most people on here know, me and Tom have a history. We've been friends, a long time and been in the wrestling business a long time. And so we've had dinners together and we've talked at wrestling shows and had some pretty deep conversations and stuff. And one of the things we've done here recently with the pandemic is there's been a lot of COVID talk. We have a group of local Ohio promoters where we have our own Facebook group where we get on there and we talk and exchange ideas about COVID and wrestling business and whatnot. And I haven't started running again since COVID shut down. I've just kind of been, biding my time and waiting. But Big Tom's when War Wrestling's already ran 2 or 3 events, and they've been pretty successful. And so we wanted to get him on here to talk about after. I know earlier we talked, on the earlier podcast, we've talked about the promoting and him running shows and how he does it. But, this is after the effect of having to deal with COVID and all the regulations and all that. So I wanted to get him on here and pick his brain for everybody and even the promoters out there to let him know his experiences and of what he's been experiencing with running shows on this pandemic and how things have gone and what steps he's been taking and all that. So I just wanted to come on here and talk about that a little bit today.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Donnie, like me and you talked about, we're in that group or whatever. And the biggest thing for me, and I want to say this because I know I got a little bit of flack for actually running shows from some people that don't know, the ins and outs of what we've done and what we haven't done and what we need to do and not do and that sort of thing. But I wanted to be honest here and say, I think more than anything, for me personally and the people that are surrounded with me and even the fans, the mental part has been the toughest part. For most people, wrestling is their escape. It's their escape from day-to-day life. It's their escape from, work problems and family problems and all of that, So for us running, to me personally, it had more to do with just the mental part. And like I said, I have friends that are in the business, have been, and I can sit here and tell you, I'm not going to name names because, it's not my place, but I will say this, we had 2 or 3 guys that wrestle for me and consistently wrestle for me that pretty much posted suicide notes during all of this because they just couldn't deal with the mental part of not having that escape. So, we as a group of all the hard promoters got together and tried to work with the state and the athletic commission as best as we could. And, I don't want to badmouth the state, but the problem with the state is they didn't know what they needed to do from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, it was the blind leading the blind because this is all new to all of us. Right. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we all got frustrated and we all got mad. But the problem with it, to me, was as a whole is the state would say something and then they would say, then it would go to the next committee or the next whatever, and then they would interpret it the way they want, and then they would, send it down to us, and then it would be interpreted into a totally different way. Mm-hmm. So that was the biggest thing for me it was unprecedented, territory for all of us. But, like in our case, I'll say like our main venue that we used to run was the Bradfield Community Center, and it's a full-size gym with bleachers and all of that. Mm-hmm. Well, when all these rules and regulations came down, we could only have 97 people in there.
Right.
And 97 people is not going to pay the bills. 97 people, if you still, that's the biggest thing. The misconception was like these guys are going to wrestle for free because we're in a pandemic. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't work that way. So we had bottom lines that we had to do. We had to, do certain things or whatever. So, the first thing with me was finding a venue that was big enough. Because because they want to go by square footage and they want to go by, the max capacity of the building and this, that, and the other. And, we was at 15%, so, other than a high school gym, I would say up in this area, there was absolutely maybe 1, maybe 2 venues within 50 miles of here. So we sought it out, and the crazy thing about it was the building that we're currently running is an indoor soccer arena, and I know you're familiar with an indoor soccer arena, Donnie, and but this used to be a bowling alley, and the guy went in and basically gutted the whole building. I mean, it was basically from one end to the other end. He completely gutted it or whatever, and he put indoor soccer arena in there. So I'd never been in there since they redone it. So I walked in there, and I'm talking, this building is massive. I mean, it's huge. So I asked him, hey, how much square footage do you have? This, that, and the other. I found out the capacity, this, that, and the other. And we're very, very fortunate to where we was right at that cusp where we could do 300 people. And that's the maximum even with the state. You know what I mean? The state's not going to, you could have a 25,000 seat arena. The state's only going to allow you, unless you're the Cincinnati Bengals or Ohio State or something like that. Right. But as far as, little things, they're not going to allow anybody else in, no more people in there than 300. Well, the building owner was even uncomfortable with 300. He's like, hey, listen, I've never had 300 people in here. Normally when we do events, they're in and out during the soccer tournaments and this, that, and the other. They're not permanently seated, this, that, and the other. So we actually came upon, we sent our proposal to the local health department. And we, stepped it out, mapped, step by step, exactly what we were going to do, who our COVID officer was, because you have to have a COVID officer or whatever that knows all the rules and regulations. So we got one of them. We sent in all the paperwork, step by step, like one-way exits and one-way entrances, and, staggered seating has to be 6 foot. And we did all of that. And I sent it in to him. And the crazy thing is the guy was honest with me. He was like, listen, no offense. He's like, but I don't really know too much about the wrestling. He said, your guys' proposal is probably one of the most well thought out ones that we've done. And I simply told him, I said, well, because we have a lot riding on this. I said, if we run a show, we still got to pay the bills, even if it gets shut down. Mm-hmm. So, we went above and beyond. We did the temperature checks and, of all the staff and all the wrestlers. We did, all the COVID paperwork or whatever. We did all that sort of stuff or whatever. And we have to do it every single show. And we have to save it for 3 months, just in case. And I'll tell you how strict we were. And we kind of did it on our own accord is I have to have contact tracing info for every single fan. Regardless, I have to have contact tracing information for every single fan. And I actually had a gentleman who wanted 4 tickets, and he had messaged me and he said, hey, I want 4 tickets or whatever. Can I leave my name at the door? Blah, 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 and pay for them. And I don't normally have a problem with that. No big deal. 75-80% of our fans are like that, Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, this guy would not give me an email address. And I simply told him, I can't sell you the tickets. And he genuinely got pissed off at me. And I said, sir, I don't know what how you feel about it, if you agree with it or you don't agree with it. I'm not here to judge. I'm just telling you what I have to do in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the state, and in the eyes of the local health department. I said, do I agree with everything? No. I said, but in order for us to run, we have to do certain things. So every single show, we have a list of every single person that is on the show. Staff-wise, they do temperature checks, all the COVID stuff, they do all that. And then all the fans, whatever, have to give me some form of contact tracing information, or we just can't sell them. And we do the social distancing and all of that. How we did ours was a little bit different than even what the state recommended. The state recommended 6 feet apart or whatever, and they wanted everybody to have assigned seating. Well, in our case, it was a little bit odd because we was going into this building for the very first time. You know what I mean? So we didn't really know what the seating and stuff was going to be. So how we did it is we did it where, let's just say you and your family came and you got 4 tickets. You guys would stand in line or whatever. We had ushers or whatever. We didn't set out none of the chairs. We did not set out 1 chair or whatever for the show. And what we did was we had ushers, like you would come say, you have 4 people. Well, then our ushers would end up saying, hey, family of 4 or whatever, we would have 2 of our other staff members or whatever go and get the chairs. Then they would set them around ringside or whatever. And then what we did was we went and got PVC piping or whatever and duct taped bright orange on each side of 6 foot. To where when we set those 4 people, then we just, wherever that ended, we moved over 6 foot. Then that's where the next group would go. And then we just went all the way around the ring. We went all the way around the ring or whatever to the other side. And then once we did that, what we did was then we did it. We staggered it or whatever and offset it at another 6 feet. And then we went around the ring that way. And the easiest way to describe it that I tell everybody is we did it like a checkerboard. If you look at a checkerboard, that's pretty much how our seating went or whatever. And I will honestly say we've only had 1 complaint out of the 3 shows we did. And it was just the fact of that a larger group came in. I think there was 6 or 8 of them. I'm not positive. And they were on the larger side of them, and they moved their chairs a little bit and it infringed on another fan's 6 feet. And it was an older lady or whatever. And she said something. She wasn't nasty. She wasn't mean. She just said, hey. And we just simply went over there and said, hey, listen, once these seats are seated, we can't move them. And they were very, very good. I think the biggest thing for me, going from a fans, listen to fans want entertainment as much as we want entertainment. There's no, up this way, we don't even have a movie theater open.
Yeah.
You know, we don't even have a movie. Our movie theater is permanently closed, you know, so we don't have that, you know. And then on top of that, you know, they were limiting spectators for football, spectators for, you know, basketball, you know, spectators for wrestling. They were, you know, so, you know, we came back simply for the fact of it give people that outlet. You know, we even wiped down the ring ropes, the turnbuckles, the aprons, and all that every single match or whatever with disinfectant or whatever. You know, we've went above all that. You know, I think we got 14. I want to say we got 14 stations. Or 14 areas in our venue or whatever that have hand sanitizer or wipes or something like that for the fans. We got it in the back for the guys. You know, we even, with our new venue, we even went so far as to social distance one whole back half of the building. Now, if anybody that's ever been inside an indoor soccer arena knows they got the glass around it or whatever. Well, we're on the back side of one of them or whatever, and it's 143 feet long. And what we did was to social distance the guys, the talent, even more than what the state requires, is we ran black plastic the whole length of that field, 143 feet by 8 foot, to where we got the whole length of the building now to where we can social distance the guys. You know, and it's worked, you know what I mean? And that's little things that we did, you know. Yeah, it cost us $80 for the plastic and all of that. But for me, I just wanted to give guys and or the fans the peace of mind that we're going to go above and beyond and that it can be done. And as you know, Donnie, because you was in some of those meetings, Bernie from the Athletic Commission doesn't care anything about wrestling.
Right.
At all. So, you know, he had the mindset that we was going to fail. Yep. Well, I took that as a challenge. You know, I took that as a F you, I'll prove you wrong. And that's kind of what we did. And it's not the fact that we feel we're better than anybody. It's not the fact that, you know, it's not none of that. It's the fact of I have a team behind me that knows our vision, that I know we could pull it off. Because guess what? If I even remotely thought that one of our fans or one of our wrestlers had a chance of catching the COVID or whatever because we did something wrong, I wouldn't ever run a show again, period.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and I think that's kind of one thing that weighs on my mind too, is if I did run an event and somebody catches it, how I would feel, and I obviously wouldn't feel very good about it.
Agreed.
But,
I mean, and that's the thing. Even like the 2 shows ago, it was 2 shows ago that we did. We had some of our talent that were booked on the show, and they came in close contact or whatever with somebody that has it or whatever, or someone that got tested that's around them or whatever. And we actually had 8 talent. Referees or managers, valets, wrestlers, whatever, that I didn't want on the show, period. You know, and it was just the fact of that, you know, they didn't get their testing or that they, you know, was honest with me and said, hey, I was around somebody or whatever, but I don't have the symptoms. I pretty much said, stay home.
Right.
You know, I'm like, stay home. You know, I mean, I'm not going to risk it, you know, and that's the thing with me. We can make it, you know, as Ripper Blackheart and me and a couple of the other guys say, you know, we got plans A through Z plus 1, 2, and 3. You know, we'll make it work. You know what I mean? And that's the big thing for me is just personally, you know what I mean? Like my dad had COVID, and he has no idea how he got it. Well, the scary thing for me is my mom is on permanent oxygen and she has lung issues and, COPD. And I mean, she literally can't walk a half a block without having to be on oxygen. So, you know, that was the big thing with me I put myself in a situation. Would I want my mom to come and sit at that wrestling show?
Right.
And be comfortable. And that's the approach that we took. We took that approach. I mean, we go above and beyond because that's what it is. And I think I looked it up one time. I think if you go through all the rules and regulations that the state and the county and all that we have like 11 pages of rules, regulations, protocols, and guidelines that we have to follow.
Yep.
You know, and they have to sign off on that. You know what I mean? Like every single show, I send our stuff into the health department. He sends the stuff back. I send it to the state. He signs off on it or whatever. You know, so, you know, they're doing their part. We're doing our part. You know, the biggest thing from me and you, as you were saying, Donnie, like, you guys haven't ran, you know, like you just got to take the approach of you got to think outside the box on things. You know what I mean? You know, I'm very fortunate, like I said, that I have a very, very amazing crew. You know, that are willing to put in the time, the effort or whatever to execute my vision. You know, I've lost a lot of sleep over this, you know, and the one thing I wanted to stress too is if there's any promoter listening to this, you notice I haven't said anything about the financial loss. You know what I mean? I haven't said one thing about the financial loss. As a company, me and Christine, my wife, we lost $45,000 from March to November.
Ouch.
Yep.
So, that's the thing that people don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, how many companies can take a $45,000 hit and still come back?
Right.
But the good thing about us was, and I'm not going to preach to anybody because I've made mistakes over the years or whatever, but the good thing about us is we've always kept things separate. We've always kept our personal finances separate from our professional finances or whatever. Even during all this time, we didn't lose one red cent. You know what I mean? My bills were paid. We still went on vacation. I still went to Vegas. You know what I mean? We still did all that stuff or whatever. I wasn't dependent on pro wrestling to pay the bills,
Right.
But the good thing about it is we've got a good rapport with people, over the years, and they came back. I mean, the very first show that we did, we had to honor 65 tickets that were sold in March. And what a lot of people don't realize is I still have storage payment every month. That's $94. I still had payments on our mics. We had to go get brand new mics or whatever. That was $1,000. I still have payments on that every month. So what I basically had to do was, which I don't like doing it, I had to use the ticket money to pay those bills because me and my wife have an agreement. We will not use our personal finances to run the company. We won't. The day that happens, I'm 100% done running shows, period. I won't ever do it again because, that's the story. We're kind of getting a little sidetracked, but a lot of people don't realize is I've lost my house and everything over pro wrestling.
Right. Yeah.
I believed in somebody else at the time, and they basically, I took a hook, line, and sinker. I lost my house and everything over pro wrestling. So now here it is. Fast forward us running our company. We haven't had to use none of our own personal finances for 12 years.
That's awesome.
And the thing is, Donnie, you've been at our shows. We don't have shit equipment. You know what I mean? Like, our equipment's nice. My sound system's probably $10,000. You know what I mean? And that was all bought from pro wrestling money. You know what I mean? Our ring was bought, our guardrails, the new belts or whatever that we're getting for our tag team tournament. Those are all bought with wrestling money. And even during this pandemic, of the 3 shows that we've ran, they haven't been huge money makers. I'll be the first one to tell you that. They haven't. But guess what? It's paid all the bills, and we had enough money left over to pay a bill or to going forward to the next show.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. It can honestly be done if you just put forth the effort or whatever. Like Cody Hawk down there. Like they've been running weekly, and I think he can only have like 40, I think, in his building.
Yeah, but Jim actually goes to their shows every Friday.
Yeah, I went down to the one or whatever and helped him with the ring. He was tearing the ring apart or whatever, and I went down and helped him with the ring or whatever. Just because I knew he was going to be in the weeds because it was a day of a show. You know what I mean? And he's got to run around doing all this other stuff. And then he also wanted to redo the ring, so I went down there and helped him. But even they've made it work. He draws 40 people, but how they did it was, which I think is smart, and actually that was the original idea that we had, is they've been running 2 shows to basically, he can have 40 people 2 times, and if that's what you have to do, to pay the bills and to get the guys to work and get the experience and give them the mental, the mental stability, even the fans' mental stability, then that's just what you got to do. You have to adapt. I mean, we was pretty much going to do the same thing. If we had ended up staying at Bradfield, we was allowed 97.5 people. And so we was going to run 2 shows, and we figured it up that basically that would pretty much, that was our break-even point, would be about 200 people would be our break-even point on the shows, so we knew going into that. And I had a good long talk with my staff, and I said, listen, we're going to have to open up the doors. If we stay at this venue, we're going to have to open up the doors basically 2 to 3 hours before we normally do it. So that means it's going to be 10 times more work on us to do the exact same setup minus 3 hours. And I said, can we pull it off? And my staff was like, hell yes, we can pull it off. So, I depend on them. I lean on them. I value, what they bring to the table, and they know what we do and what we can do. And we're very fortunate, even with like the new venue, it's a huge space. Just the field alone is 12,000 square feet. And the building overall is 24,000 square feet. So we can spread people out, and that sort of thing. So that's the big thing for me is just, it can be done, and like I said, the financial part, yeah, would I like to have that $45,000? Yeah, because it would have got me, it got me my new trailer that I want for all of our ring and sound equipment and all that. Yep. But you just kind of roll with the punches. And I'll be honest with you, Donnie, I feel in my heart that if you put forth the effort, people see it. And they realize that you're doing it for the right reasons, and they realize that you're doing it because you genuinely care. Right. And I think that will come back and pay us tenfold. And I honestly believe that, just to see the fans as, having, the time of their lives, and them just being able to let loose for that 2 to 3 hours and forget about the world that's going on around us, where, I don't know one person that's not been affected by this in one way or shape or form. Right. So, you know what I mean? It's just a crazy, crazy time for all of us, so, it's just one of those things where, we did the first show, it was kind of like, oh, here we go, and it went okay, and then we did the second show, and we was like, okay, So then the one show, we totally had to change the venue because our current venue wasn't even available because they have soccer tournaments. So we actually went outside of town, which was scary enough because for whatever reason, and I don't know the reason, but if you tell people that it's physically outside of Lima, I can honestly sit here and tell you, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you this, I could have Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair, and our fans will not travel that extra 10 or 15 miles.
Really?
I have no idea why. I have no idea. When we've tried to do it 3 or 4 times over the years, actually the building where we ran at that show, we used to run, and we literally did like 4 shows there, and we went from having like 600 to 300 to 200 to the point where I was like, what are we doing? Right. And everybody was like, we don't like the venue. We don't like going outside of town. So we're not going to support it. So I was kind of like, I was very, very leery about running the new building, but I wanted to run the building because it was right around Christmas time. I wanted to give people a good solid show or whatever. And we drew 165 fans or whatever. And it paid all the bills, and I was happy with it. We didn't lose no money. That's the big thing for us now is we have a set budget, and we know what our bottom line is. And I can tell you how narrow the margins were the very first show we ran. We had to make money or not make money was $50.
Really?
So imagine how scary that is.
I know it.
knowing that you have to honor 65 tickets, that people previously paid. But literally, when we set that first show up in November, we had a $50. If we went $50 one way or $50 the other, was either we was losing money or we was going to break even and make a little bit of money. And who wants to go into running an event, any type of event, with those narrow margins?
Right. Yeah.
But we did it. You know what I mean? And that's the one thing I'm very, very proud of is we did it. It was successful. We made enough money. Actually, we made enough money on that show to pay for the building for the next show. You know what I mean? So, that's the thing that, and that's another thing like a lot of guys don't grasp. And I think you're one of them where me and you are in agreement of whatever we make on the shows, we put back into the company to make it easier. You know what I mean? Like if I make $500, it's not paying my mortgage. You know what I mean? Right. Like, 100% of the money is going back into the company. And that's kind of what we do. We've done it for so long and all of that. Kind of a side note, I wanted to tell you how guys don't realize how good I am. And I'm not being cocky and arrogant when I say this, but I've never been in this building until the day of our first show. Now, mind you, like I said, it's 12,000 square feet. Well, when I asked him how big it was, he told me it was like 143 feet by 83 feet is what he told me. So I started mapping everything out or whatever of how we wanted to set things up and how we wanted to, where the ring was going to be, the guardrails were going to be, the entrance was going to be, all that. And so when we get there, me and my buddy Bruce, who's kind of like my right-hand man, he helps me do all the loading and unloading and all that and set up and tear down. Me and him was like, hey, let's measure this out real quick, wherever we want everything. We're going to put black tape down. That way the guys who come in and do the setup, they'll know exactly where the guardrails are, the ring goes, whatever. Now, mind you, this building is 12,000 square feet on the field. When we measured everything out, Donnie, I was a half inch off.
Nice. That's very good. I don't even think I could do that.
But it's just the fact of, like I said, I've been doing it for so long, and I overthink things of, where, like where we're going to put this or how we're going to do this, or, there's always that variable or whatever, and it's just the fact of, I do have a lot of experience on doing those sort of things or whatever, being able to adapt on the fly and all of that. And that's kind of the the way we've done things, even going into these shows, we have plan A, B, through, A through Z plus 1, 2, and 3. But my team knows to be able to adapt on the fly. If like we had a kid. Or a lady who brought her baby. Well, we didn't allot that she was going to bring the stroller. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, that would infringe on the 6 feet. You know what I mean? So we adapted. You know what I mean? We were like, hey, we'll put her in this section. It'll be on the end. We're good. So that's the one good thing, like I said, about being able to adapt on the fly and surrounding yourself around good people or whatever. And here's the thing: overthink everything. I went into all of these shows that we've done, the past 3 shows, the worst case scenario.
Yep.
I mean, I didn't go into it thinking, we got this, we're gonna hit a home run or a grand slam. I went into it thinking, well, that could happen, that could happen, that could happen. Well, what if this happens? So I overthought everything, you know what I mean? And I just basically, put it in place. And, not to sound mean, but they know, my staff knows that if they mess up, the shit's gonna hit the fan.
Right. Yeah.
My name is. Here's the thing. My name is on all these documents. You know what I mean? The same way with my compliance officer. She's my PR girl, and because I couldn't be out, because basically how it works is your compliance officer cannot be behind the scenes.
Okay.
Because they basically have to be out in the crowd to see if there's any violations or anything like that. Right. And from what we was told, and I don't know this for a fact, but what we was told is they have minor infractions and major infractions. So if they physically send someone from the state anonymously, they're basically looking over your protocols and your guidelines and all of that or whatever, and you're allowed X amount of minor infractions, which basically could just simply be, from what I was told, is two parties are standing in line and one's closer than the other. Than the 6 feet, you have to be on top of that. Just simply like our whole staff had to be masked and all of that. Even during setup and all that, we had to be masked and all that. During the show, they had to be masked. We do have one gentleman that's on our staff who has a card that states that he can't wear a mask for health reasons or whatever. And here's the crazy thing: we actually got questioned about that from a fan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was honest with him. I said, listen, he has a card. I know exactly who you're talking about or whatever. You ain't even got to tell me who he is, because I know who it is, because he's the only one on my whole staff. Like the compliance officer, they have to be out front. They got to know all the rules and regulations. And here's the crazy thing. By law, from what I gather, they're legally responsible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're legally responsible for it because their name is on all the paperwork as the compliance officer. So, I couldn't be in 2 places at one time, because originally I was the compliance officer. Then I was kind of like, well, I can't be out in front and in the back at the same time. So we switched over. But yeah, I mean, we print off our plan every single show. That way, in case anybody comes there. I don't know 100% if anybody from the state has showed up, but I will tell you that if they do show up and you get what they consider a major infraction, which from what I gather, no one knows what a major infraction is. It could probably be up at the discretion of the person that comes. But from what I gather, talking to other people and talking to Bernie and all them from the state, they can legally and physically shut that show down right on the spot. So, can you imagine doing all this extra work and then boom, for whatever reason, and it don't even have to be your fault. That's the main thing. That's the main thing I could try to stress to everybody that was thinking about running. It don't even have to be on your watch. It could basically be 2 fans standing in line, and one has a mask and one doesn't have a mask, and the dude without the mask coughs on the other one. Mm-hmm. If that's considered a major infraction, they can legally shut the show down. So, who wants to take that chance? You know what I mean? Luckily, my compliance girl is, she's on it. She knows, like, you're not even sneezing without her over there giving you a tissue. So, it's, like I said, I don't have no worries in the back, because here's the thing: between Christine, who's running the door, and Amanda, my PR girl out front, I ain't worried about nothing, because Lord knows they're going to be on those people like white on rice if they ain't doing, so we're good. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, Donnie, you and I both know, that it can be done if you just put your mind to it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yep. And like I said, if I was worried about the money part, I probably wouldn't run because I'm tired of having heart attacks if we're going to pay the bills.
Right. Yep. I understand that part. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I just have an observation, and I'll let you get back to what you wanted, Donnie. And being that this is WrestleHorror, and we know a wrestling promoter that uses an old bowling alley, and we know a haunt owner that uses an old bowling alley, I just find that even more of a reason to tie the two together.
Yeah. Yep. Carnage here in Columbus that I'm working with and stuff. They just moved into a bowling alley for their haunt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because we got a big, huge haunted outdoor thing here. Like this guy's got, I don't know. I think it's like 50 or 60 acres.
Nice.
In a cornfield, and he has all these buildings out in the middle of the cornfield, and they have a zombie thing where they go through like this thing and you can shoot the zombies or whatever with paint guns and all this other stuff or whatever. Well, he actually approached me about doing a wrestling show at the haunted cornfield or whatever it is, but he wants to do it like Freddy versus Jason.
Oh.
And stuff like that, and I was honest with the guy. I was like, listen, money talks, dude. If you throw me enough money, I'll have whoever dress up as Jason and Freddy, you know what I mean? Because it is what it is, but there is a correlation between them, you know what I mean? It genuinely is, because I tell people all the time, like comic books, like a lot of the guys are in comic books, and you guys are into the horror. That's pretty much the same type of crowd, the same type of people, the same type of mindset. It's the same people,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, if you could honestly do one together, you know what I mean, that you could appeal to both sides or all sides or whatever, it probably would make $1 gazillion or whatever, because it applies to everyone, you know what I mean, in one way or the thing. But I actually did a ring rental for a Comic-Con. It was a Japanese Comic-Con or whatever up in Sandusky, Ohio, at Kalahari, and they had the people dress up as like Japanese anime characters or whatever and stuff like that, and it got over huge. I mean, honestly, I think they did 3 shows that day. It was like 3 1-hour shows, and it was like the first one was kind of like, the crowd wasn't into it or whatever. Well, then people started talking about it. By the third one, there was a few hundred people in there watching it.
Nice.
You know what I mean? And it was cool. It was a cool experience, you know what I mean? Just to see it and to see how they adapted, and I think the same thing can be done with the horror and the wrestling, So where's the bowling alley at in Columbus? Is it physically in Columbus?
Yeah, it was the old Eastland Lanes on Refugee Road.
Oh, I know exactly where that's at.
Yeah, they tore all the lanes out just like the soccer place did up there, and they got 2 haunts built, and they're building a third inside there.
But you know what, man? If you can make it work and you have that vision and you have that team to be able to do it, here's the thing, man. People love that sort of thing. I mean, I think up here, I want to say they charge like $15 to go through the haunted cornfield or whatever. Then if you want to do the zombie thing, it's like $25 or whatever. But I mean, even during the pandemic, this past year, they did some stuff or whatever, and they're well on social media, so they kept everybody at Wrestling going to social media. They had points during I think they were open on Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays only. I think that's what it was. But they had points in time where they refused entry because there were that many people waiting in line. Because guess what? Once again, there's nothing else to do. So
right.
if you can pull it all together and make it happen, it's going to do good. And people are going to remember that. That's the biggest thing for me, is people are going to remember that you went above and beyond. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a freaking kickball contest. You know what I mean? Because everyone's paranoid right now about catching it, and like I said, I don't get into the political part or any of that. I don't really care. You know what I mean? I told people, it's affected me. It's affected my business. That's the only thing I'm worried about. I don't care about who voted for this or whatever, this conspiracy theory. I'm not over that. But the reality of it is it has affected all of us, and people just want an outlet, a creative outlet. You know what I mean? Like, I hope that thing does awesome down there in Columbus, because people need it. Yep. People need it right now more than anything. Like, we went and did an escape room about a month ago. I think it was about a month or 2 ago, and it was packed. It was packed full of people wanting it. I mean, literally, they're booked up, and you're talking, it's $25 a person for an hour, up to 10 people. people. So theoretically, a party of 10 goes in there and drops $250 for an hour to go do this, do this escape room because people just want to do something.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, but just to clarify on what we had talked about earlier,
Okay.
I kind of want to do like a step-by-step or a framework type of thing.
Okay.
So first off, basically, just for people that don't realize, the reason he had to move from Bradford Community Center to where he is now is because you said they was only allowed 97 people, and that's what they were allowed to have, to where War Wrestling is a consistent promotion that draws 500 to 600 an event. So to drop down from 500 to 600 people from event to 97 is a big financial hit. And, just honestly, facts are facts. You can't make a profit off of 97 fans. It just ain't going to happen. And
honestly, Donnie, and that's considering also, that's considering paying everybody, and the thing is not to sound crazy, but my staff isn't volunteer. I pay all my staff too, and all the wrestlers, plus all of the bills, and I think when we figured it up, Donnie, and me, I'm pretty straightforward and honest with people or whatever. 200 fans would have been about our cutoff for breaking 100% even on the show. Mm-hmm. And that was even cutting the roster down. I think we ended up cutting 6 or 8 guys. Just because I just was kind of like, listen, no offense, guys, I'm not going to give you the hot dog and the handshake treatment.
Right.
So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh no, you're fine. Yeah, but so from there, like here in Ohio, we have the Ohio Athletic Commission, and then we also got the health department. So you have to write up a proposal to the Athletic Commission to get approval, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if any of this is wrong, because I've never went through the process yet.
Originally that was it, but how they ended up doing it is you had to send the proposal to the individual county health department first. Okay. Basically, in a roundabout way, it was Bernie's way of having someone else do the homework, and he just had to sign it and look it over. Which, if that's what the state it requires, no big deal. Right. But originally, you were correct. Originally, it was supposed to be a plan through the state or whatever, the athletic commission, and then and then they would look it over. You would send it to the health department, and then they would sign it off. Well, then they flipped it around and basically said it to where, hey, each individual health department has their own criteria. And the reason why I know that is because we got friends that run down in Hamilton County, Fairfield County, and down in the Cincinnati area. And it was even different from down there. Like originally, we were supposed to have to take the fans' temperatures. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why? No one else is doing it. Well, it's up to each individual county. So basically, what we did was we sent the proposal into the local health department. They looked it over, did step by step. If anything needed changed or reworded or whatever, they would tell us. So we got approved. Once we got approved or whatever, and they signed off on it on their, the athletic commission's letterhead and all that other stuff, his name and number and all his contact information. Then the state looked at it or whatever, and then they issued the permit to run the show. Okay. The biggest thing for us is I guess it's kind of like the state's way of protecting things or whatever. Right, which it is what it is. I mean, but yeah, that's the biggest thing, but a lot of things that a lot of the guys don't understand that are thinking about this, you also got to deal with the individual venues. Right. Mm-hmm. That's one thing, like a guys magically think, oh, I'm going to be able to get this state approved and this, that, and the other, and I'm going to be able to run. And here's the thing that the reason why you talked about the Bradfield Center, the Bradfield Community Center, whatever, is a lot of their programming is senior citizens driven. All right. Like they do, a dance class there with seniors, and they do, a bunch of other aerobics with the seniors and all this, that, and the other. Well, Keisha, who's the director, she's a great woman. She followed us all the way through till the very, very end. But the problem was with that, which that's one thing guys really need to check out, is by them being classified as a senior citizens center through programming, that also meant that some of their tax dollars was them being paid by the governor or the federal government. So they weren't going to risk us running a public event and COVID still being in a building or whatever, and then they ended up catching, something, doing the programming later or whatever, and then boom, one of their people get COVID. from us. So that's the reason why we left the Bradfield. It was strictly the fact of is they were uncomfortable with us still running a show there. I was even going to go so far as to get some of those antagonizers or whatever that clean the air, like 99%. Like I got a buddy that does that for a living, and he was going to let me rent like 3 or 4 of them or whatever. We was going to come in and spray before the show and after the show. We was going to do all of that, but at the end of the day, the venue was still uncomfortable. Right. And I respect her wishes, and I told her, I said, Keisha, you know what? If you guys ever want us to come back after this is on, I'd love to come back just because it's in the city. I like the venue. It was the fact of we just couldn't do it. But I want to tell you a funny story, which you guys will get a thing on this. It was originally 97.5 people. Okay. And that's what the legal paperwork said. It said 97.5. So I was going to film like a vignette of everyone holding up a sign 1 through 79, right? And then it was going to pan down and it was going to be 79.5 and it was going to be a midget.
Nice.
And I was just going to do it just to be an asshole. Close the state, because how the hell can you have 79.5 people? You know what I mean? Am I going to have a guy in a wheelchair with no legs? I mean, tell me what you know what I mean? But that's what the legal paperwork from the state said, 79.5 people. Like, that's the type of stuff we've been dealing with, Donnie.
Right. I understand completely.
79.5 people. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it. I'm like, is he real? Is he really saying 79.5 people? Like, I forwarded it to my PR girl and I'm like, is he really saying that? So then I just got the idea of, all right, if we have to run there, I'm running a vignette. 79.5 people. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because you gotta kind of roll with the punches and just find something amusing out of that situation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, you just got to go with it. You got to roll with the punches and move on and deal with it. So.
Oh yeah, that's funny. So that's not surprising though.
That is funny.
But yeah, so like once you go through all the regulations, you get all the approvals in the building. You already mentioned you have your one-way routing where the fans go in one door, out the other. You got your sanitation stations.
Yep.
And you said you check the temperatures. The one thing I wanted out, the contact tracing information, is that merely just an email address, or do you have to get like their name, address, phone number?
I'll give you two different types. As far as all the performers and staff, we had to have physical addresses, phone numbers, and emails.
Okay.
And temperature checks. As far as the fans, it was either a phone number and or an email address. And how we did ours was, because like I said, we did ours a little bit different where we didn't do assigned seating or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How we did ours is we have a ticketing system. And we could go in and override the system. Basically what we did is even if they physically went into the ticket outlet and bought tickets, then that ticket outlet would message me and said, hey, Donnie Hoover came and bought 3 tickets or whatever, and then he would physically give me their email address and or phone number to where I put it in our ticketing system to where at the end of the show or before the show, if there was any questions or anything, I had every single fan's name, number, name, number, and email address. That's how we did it, and that's the way we did it. And the good thing about it is my staff pretty much knew where they were going to sit people or whatever, and that sort of thing, because we have a lot of the same fans over and over and over and over, and they got certain spots that they love sitting in or whatever, so we pretty much knew about that. But yeah, that's pretty much all we needed from a fan standpoint, was just the contact information, the email, all of that. I mean, even if you don't have a ticketing system, keeping it real, you can write it down. I mean, they're not that much of a stickler to where they're going to be like, everything's got to be single space line, blah, 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 blah. They just want it basically, in case, Donnie Hoover gets COVID and he was sitting in the second, section or whatever, who was around him, you know what I mean? And then they can contact those people. So that's pretty much what we did. And like I said, for the most part, the 3 shows we've done, they've ran flawlessly. We've even got a lot of compliments from fans, about how we've done it, and that sort of thing. We even a small thing that people may not think about. We still do concessions, and our staff is, gloves and the whole shebang and all that. But we even went and got our own mustard packets and ketchup packets. to where we physically hand the, we ask them, hey, you need mustard or ketchup? Yeah, boom. That way there wasn't no them picking up the bottle, of, mustard or ketchup or whatever, and then, whatever. So we went even as far as to do that. And, and yes, it has cost us a little bit more money. You can go to Walmart and buy a mustard and ketchup for $2. And we did the mustard and ketchup individual packs, and it was like $18 on Amazon. You know what I mean? Same way with all the hand sanitizer. You know what I mean? I'm very, very fortunate enough this way that I actually have an acquaintance who owns a pharmaceutical company, and they actually started making their own hand sanitizer. So I got him kind of like on the back burner type thing. If I ever need it, he's like, hey, call me, get a hold of my girl. She'll hook you up or whatever. But the crazy thing is we actually had one of our sponsors who actually does our plaques for our Hall of Fame. She actually does, she has a side business to do with the essential oils and all that sort of stuff. So she actually made us, I think, like 10 bottles of hand sanitizer. And she just gave them to us. She's just like, hey, listen, I come to the shows. I love the shows. Here's my way of supporting you guys. Boom. You know what I mean? And it was, if my memory serves me correct, it was like 97% alcohol.
Nice.
So, I mean, it was the real deal. You know what I mean? It was no 60 or whatever. Right. We actually even had fans offering to buy us hand sanitizer and that sort of thing, and wipes and all of that, because once again, it goes back to what we talked about. People just want that escape. So guess what? If you can go to a show with peace of mind and it might cost you $3 for a thing of hand sanitizer or $3 for some wipes, I guarantee you most fans are going to be like, dude, I'll buy you 3 or 4 packs if I can come to a wrestling show. Right. I mean, people just want that escape. You know what I mean? And, you got, if you plan it out right and you do it, it can happen. But honestly, going through the steps, Donnie, nothing that I've said, and I want to stress this, if there's anybody, they can reach out to me through social media. I will gladly help them in any way, shape, or form. I have no qualms about saying, hey, do this, or hey, try this. Justin is running in Columbus tonight at the Hilliard, Franklin County.
Kind of fairgrounds, yeah.
Fairgrounds. Me and him talked. He's like, hey, what should I do? I said, dude, do this, this, and this. I said, how big's your building? He said that. I said, well, you can probably, he figured it up. He said he can probably get 100 people. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing is we're all in this together, because the way that the athletic commission worded things was, and this, Donnie, if one messes up, he's shutting us all down.
Yep.
So
it affects everybody.
Yeah. So it's going to affect everybody. So, and that's the whole thing is, this is the first time in 22 years of me being involved in wrestling where, for the most part, we stuck it out. We stuck it together as a group, and we tried to work things out. And, to me, that speaks volumes, and I've told people this before, and I'll say it again, I'm willing to, be the sacrificial lamb when it comes to dealing with the state. I have no problem telling Bernie he's an asshole, that he needs to rethink things or whatever, because guess what? He's not in the trenches doing it. Right. You know what I mean? He's sitting behind a desk signing some papers. So he doesn't know what we're going through and what we need to do and what we, the opportunities, he basically made the comment that we were the guinea pigs for combat sports.
Yep.
So it was ours to do, to succeed or fail at. And, and I told everybody that, me, Donnie, I'm outspoken. I really don't care what people think about me, because, at the end of the day, I use War Wrestling as a tool to give back. Mm-hmm. And we've done it for a very, very long time. And I'm not going to allow anybody else on my watch to dictate my success or my failure. And I'm not going to, and that's just the way I feel about it. I have no qualms, and I'll tell everybody this. I have no qualms with calling the state if I see Johnny Come Lately running a show and the people aren't abiding by the rules. Because guess what? If I got to abide by them, they're going to abide by them. Because guess what? I still have to go and follow all that stuff. You know what I mean? And knowing in the back of your mind, what we talked about earlier, was you could do everything right, and it's still not in your hands. Because guess what? If someone has an agenda or someone doesn't do something right, they can, physically shut down the show. You know what I mean? So those are the things that weigh on everybody's mind. My crew, me, I've had sleepless nights forever since we, ran our first show. But, you just gotta, like I said, overthink things and execute them, and don't leave any room for error. It's got to just be black and white, point blank, blunt. This is the way it is. There is no wiggle room. There is no gray area. And if people can't abide by it, then you just kick them to the curb, or you don't sell them tickets, or, you do whatever you need to do to, to make sure that it isn't on your watch, and, that's the biggest thing for me, you know?
Yep. Well, I think that's some fantastic advice on all that, and hopefully it helped out some people that's listening. So let's move into speaking of doing shows, you got some more shows coming up, and I want to get those out there to the people that's interested. And also, if you go to War Wrestling's Facebook page, you can see pictures of his venue he's talking about and how he's got it set up, and the fans are in the crowd and all that. So it's very impressive how he's actually done all that work. But let's talk about your upcoming events and stuff. Looks like I'm looking at your list here. Looks like you got 6 of them so far solid for the year.
Yeah, we got a couple. Yeah, we got a couple fair shows in there, or whatever, festival shows or whatever. But for the most part, you know, the biggest thing for us with the new venue was you know, he does something like 100, 150 soccer tournaments a year. So, you know, we had limited dates on when we could actually run. So we was at the mercy of, you know, basically deciding if we were going to run in this venue or not run at all. So. Yeah. And kind of give you a little bit of a backstory of how we went into doing the very first show. The guy that owns it, great guy. You know what I mean? Like, this is, you know, he's invested probably a couple $1 million into this building. It's fantastic looking. But when I went into him, he was like, man, you know, I don't have a problem with this. You know, I mean, he's like, you know, people can see my venue. You know, you guys get an opportunity to use it. You know, we're good. You know, I make a little bit of money off of it. He was thinking, you know, but he said the problem is my wife is going to basically say, hell no, no way in this God's green earth. So I'm like, here we go. Well, you know, I met with him. He was impressed. I told him, you know, that we would even go so far as to cover the field with heavy duty tarps and all of that, you know, because the carpet is like $50,000 if you catch a tear in it, you know. So I'm thinking, here we go. So we did the very first show or whatever, and, you know, I'm overthinking things or whatever, and his wife shows up. And it gets back to me that she's there. She's, you know, going through everything with the fine-tooth comb and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you know, whatever, you know. Well, she started getting into the show, and she started moving closer and closer and closer to the action and or other fans. Mm-hmm. Well, going back to my compliance officer, Nazi, politely went over and said, hey, it needs to be 6 feet, blah, 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 blah. And in typical, you know, owner fashion, she was like, well, I'm the owner. And my compliance officer said, I don't give a shit who you are. My name is on this. Move 6 feet.
Right. Yep.
And here's the crazy thing. That right there won that lady over.
Nice.
The very next time that we met with him, he was like, whatever you guys need, he's like, I'll unlock the door. You guys can do whatever you want.
Nice.
Because we stuck to our guns. We didn't care who she was. It could have been, you know what I mean? It could have been, you know, whoever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It didn't matter to us because guess what? You're breaking one of our rules who could get our show shut down. I don't care if you own this building because guess what? Even if the show gets shut down because of her, guess what? She still don't want her money.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So guess what? And that totally, and his name is Jamie, the owner. He was like, man, you guys won my wife over. He was like, He was like, I couldn't believe your girl said that. And I said, she already knows how I am. I said, you know, I already told her, you know, her name's on it, my name's on it. There is no wiggle room. And that's kind of the way we want. So, you know, when we started picking out the dates, we basically, you know, we came back. We did the first year in January 2nd, which that was pretty scary because it was right after Christmas and the New Year. I think we drew like 202, 203 people or whatever for it, which I was okay with that because, you know, the holidays and this, that, and the other, all the bills got paid. I think we made about $700 off of the show, which basically pays for the building for the next show. And then we got February 20th. We're running, that was like the only date that he had in February, and then he had no dates in March, so then we're running April 17th, you know, running there. Well, then we're running the 17th because the WWE changed their WrestleMania date.
Yeah.
We originally had the 10th, and I intentionally did it on the 10th because typically WrestleMania is the first weekend in April or the end of March. So I intentionally did it on the 10th. Well, when they changed the date, I literally had like 50 messages that day from fans and the wrestlers or whatever. Oh my God, you guys are gonna run it. I'm like, you know, I can't. You know, I mean, you can't run against WrestleMania. I don't care who you are.
Nope.
You know. So I got them switched. So we switched it over to the April 17th, which was good. But the problem with that is then our big, huge anniversary show was supposed to be 3 weeks later. And I said, listen, I could throw $20,000 worth of advertisement for that show. I can't run in 3 weeks notice or whatever and pull off the show that I want to pull off. Right. So unfortunately, he only had limited dates. And this is the type of things that we've been going through, Donnie, which you'll laugh. Well, typically, Memorial Day weekend is the third weekend in May. Yeah. Well, guess what? It's not this year. So guess what? I'm running now Memorial Day weekend. Because after we switched the date, I didn't want to switch it back again. You know what I'm saying? We basically went from the 8th to the 29th. Well, then, because I thought Memorial Day weekend was the weekend before, which would have been like the 23rd. All right. I mean, so I'm like, well, then I find out and I'm like, and he messaged me. He was like, hey, do you want to switch that? I said, listen, I can't. No, man, I just can't. I said, we just got to take it in faith that our fans are going to be loyal and, they're going to come out and we're going to deliver a must-see show that the fans want to see. And the good thing about it is it's not being cocky or arrogant, but it doesn't matter what we do. I told people I could book, Sting versus, whoever. I can only have 300 people in there anyways. Right. Yep. So it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter. So, by hook or by crook, I definitely think we'll have 300 in there. I posted earlier yesterday, our average crowd for our anniversary show on the low end is 500-600. That's on the low end, so I already know, that we're going to probably have the 300 plus. So we're making arrangements to have the live feed, the live stream and all of that or whatever for people. I haven't worked it out just yet, and don't quote me on this because I don't know 100% fact. But if I can pull off getting enough sponsors to cover everything that I need to cover, I'm not charging for the live stream. It'll be 100% free for the fans. I'm just the type of person, as long as I can, pay the bills, the fans have a good time or whatever. Why am I, you know what I mean? I'm not money hungry. I don't need the money that bad. I want peace of mind that we're going to put on a kick-ass show. The fans are going to enjoy it. Well, in the back of my mind, I'm sitting there thinking, well, we're already now, because of COVID, going to have to exclude 50% of our normal crowd. Right. You know what I mean? So why would I do that? And here's the thing. I'll even go as far as to say we may even do it as a donation. If you want to donate $1, cool. That'll help us. If you don't want to donate anything and you want to watch it for free, cool. I don't really care. I'm the type of person that, like I said, I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it now because this is my way of giving back. And even during these times, you got to be able to give back. That's the one thing, Donnie, and that's really, really bugged me during all of this, is I haven't been able to donate the tickets and stuff that I normally donate to all the, organizations that we donate to, because I can't donate, say, 50 tickets, knowing that that's, a third of my crowd. You know what I mean? Because of the restrictions. I just can't do it. And that's the one thing that's really, really, really bugged me during these times, is because I know some of our fans, me and Christine was actually out during Christmas time at Walmart, and a couple came up to us or whatever, and they were actually ringing the bell for the Salvation Army. Mm-hmm. And they were donating their time and this, that, and the other, but they know me and Chris from the wrestling. And they said, hey, we want to thank you guys for all the times that you guys donated tickets to the Salvation Army, this, that, and the other. We're on limited income. That's the only way that we could watch the shows.
Mm-hmm. And very cool.
I was kind of like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, oh, here we go. You know what I mean? But the cool thing about it is going forward, we had some sponsors step up that physically bought tickets and basically told me to give them away. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. I had, I think last show we had like 24 or 25 tickets that were bought at $16 a piece from sponsors. And I just donated those tickets to people that normally wouldn't be able to make the show financially. And that's the thing that we're going to do. And I'm probably going to do that, probably even for the anniversary show, just because it's needed right now. I still got friends and people that I know in this community that haven't even got an unemployment check. They're having to go to the food banks. They're having to go do all those sort of things. They're having to do fundraisers. They're having to, depend on other people. And so, if I can do our part a little bit, to ease their mind that, hey, they really want to attend this show, but they don't have the $16 or the $21 because the anniversary show is actually going to be $21. I got some sponsors right now that I know for a fact that they're probably going to be like, hey, give me 10 tickets or whatever. I'm going to buy 10 tickets or whatever, give them away. And that's the cool thing about a lot of the people that are up in this area. They know me on a personal level. They know me. They know what we've given back over the years. And even during these crazy, crazy times, Donnie, and when I throw out this number, you'll probably be like, holy shit. Even during all these crazy times, and you know me as far as sponsors and all that and how long we've ran, to date right now, I have the most sponsors I've ever had financially in the history of the company for our anniversary show.
Really? Nice.
That's crazy to me. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Knowing that during these times, these people still know the purpose of what we're doing and what we bring to the table and what we offer the people. To me, that just blows me away. You know what I mean? Like, we legit got I have 17 sponsors on board right now, 100% on board financially. And I probably got another 10 that are on the fence because they're waiting. Like, we have a place in town that wants to host our after party. And they're like, hey, if we can host the after party, we'll give you X amount of dollars. You guys all come, have a good time, eat, drink, whatever. So we got to wait on little things like that. You know what I mean? But, to know in the back of your mind, even during a pandemic, even doing it where people were suffering, all these mom and pop small businesses that have stuck by me for the last 17 years, they're still willing to give me money. You know what I mean? Even though they're suffering, they're still willing to give me money. And it blows me away because I literally put out fillers. I literally posted some stuff on social media or whatever. And I literally had people being like, hey, what do you need from me? What can I do to help you to make this show happen? And I told them, I was honest with them. I said, listen, this is what we can provide. This is what we can offer. This is what I want. And it's not an extraordinary amount of money. It's not. I mean, I even posted it today. It's like $150 a spot.
Yeah.
But we're giving them everything that I can possibly give them, because guess what? Those 20 sponsors at $150 is $3,000.
Yep.
$3,000 pays the bills. $3,000 pays the building. $3,000 pays, all the extra, protocols that I got to go through to do the show. It pays for all that extra stuff that people don't know, and then also is going to give me an opportunity to be able to give, 25, 30 tickets away to people that can't make the show because of financial reasons. So to me, it goes back to what we talked about, during this whole conversation. It's needed right now. Stuff is needed more than anything right now. Be able to do it. And if I can, take the bull by the horns and pull it off, then that's what I'm going to keep continually do. You know what I mean? Because I know in this area, especially, we are a brand. And when we attach our names to something, we're going to do it 110% or we're not doing it. And I'm never going to put anybody at risk. I'm never going to go into it thinking that, I'm strictly out, for the money aspect. This is just as much healing as anything for me. I'll be the first one to tell you, man, the mental part is tough. Yeah. It's tough. It's probably the toughest thing that I've been through, other than before I had my weight loss surgery mentally, because, I see a lot of people suffering. I see a lot of people that, that don't have it, you know what I mean? And even like me and Christine, we said, we've donated some money, every single time that we went out during Christmas holiday, we gave money to the Salvation Army. We know it was going to help. We're not rich. We're not rich. I mean, I live in my mortgage is $375 a month. You know what I mean? But I have a house. It's not a big, huge, fancy house. But guess what? I got more than a lot of other people. So if I can reach in my pocket and give them $5, $10, $20, or, buy meals for people or whatever, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to continually do it, So, like I said, that's the reason why I like coming on here, Donnie, and talking to you, because I want people to realize, that we're humans too, and this is just, the profession that we chose, and it's our way of giving back, you know what I mean? And that's the same thing. And I know you guys would do the same thing if you had a haunt convention or whatever, and you had the financial means to, give people an experience of a lifetime. You guys would do it in a heartbeat, because, we're a different breed of people. You know that. You know, in fact, we're just a different mentality, a different breed of people, you know, and that's why I go into it each and every day of thinking, you know, what can I do to make a difference in someone's lives, you know, and that's what we plan on doing. You know, we're going to continually do it. We're going to continually give back. And, you know, and like I said, even with our anniversary show, like I said, the matches that we want to do, and we go all out. I think, you know, like I said, we still plan on having the big, huge stage, you know, we still plan on having the walkway all the way out to the ring. You know, all that stuff costs money. You know what I mean? You know, and I tell people that all the time. You know, I don't shy away from facts. To do the stage that we want to do, and to do it all the way out to the ring like we want, just to rent it. Now, this doesn't even mean them setting it up. This is just to rent it, and they literally drop it off, and we got to put it together. It's costing me $600.
Yeah.
But I want people to have that experience of a big, huge stage with a big, huge walkway going all the way to the ring. Mm-hmm. You know, our stage right now, if we plan it right, it's going to be like 16 by 20. And then there's going to be a 40-foot walkway that's going to be 4 foot by 40 foot all the way to the ring.
Yeah.
But guess what? That's what I plan on doing, because our anniversary show is our must-see show of the year. And I'm not going to phone it in because we can only have 300 people. I'm not going to phone it in because there's a pandemic. I'm going to do what needs to be done to make sure that we can pull all those things off. You know, and that's what and that's the reason, like I said, we can get the sponsors and all of that, because they know what we put forth. They know that if I tell them $150, I'm not pocketing $50.
Right.
You know what I mean? They know that. You know what I mean? So that's the big thing for us, you know. It's just one of those things, man. I absolutely love you guys to death. I'd do anything in the world for you guys. I appreciate you guys doing this stuff. You know, and it's just one of those things, like, you guys are passionate about it. It's a true labor of love. And that's kind of where I am with the wrestling. Even after 22 years, this is just a labor of love. You know, it's my way of giving back. It's my way of, you know, feeling like I belong to something, because that's a lot of things, like with wrestling. I don't know about the hump. I know a couple people that do it, but, you know, we're all a bunch of misfits.
Yes.
Yep.
You know that. We're all a bunch of misfits. You know what I mean? We're just trying to find our way in life, find our way on this earth, and, you know, make an impact in one way or the other. And that's kind of the way I feel with, even during this pandemic, you know, and going forward with all these shows. You know, we just want to make a difference in people's lives, and we want people to understand that, you know, we want to be able to give them a good show.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, your shows are top notch. They always have been. Fans love them. Like I said, I've been to many of your shows, and yeah, just the interaction and the fans of how they get involved with the stories and all that is amazing, and what it's all about. But get back to the Hall of Fame and talking about your sponsors, something I think it would be helpful for the promoters out there, or people that are considering promoting. What all things do you try to get sponsored? I mean, I know there's many things that we can come up with, but what are all the stuff you try to get sponsored when it comes to your big events like that?
Well, for the Hall of Fame, how we actually approached it, we do it to where they do individual match sponsors. And what I mean by that is, you know, let's say the main event is a cage match. You know, we'll say, hey, you can sponsor this match, and this match is brought to you by Gromy CDs and tapes or whatever, blah, 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 blah. You know, and we just approach them with that. And then we say, hey, you know, your business name and or logo will be on T-shirts. It'll be on programs. It'll be on all those little things, wherever that you're already going to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's not like you're not going to do these things to promote your event. Right. You know what I mean? Like I've done programs personally, do the programs every single show for the last 18 years. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you sit there and you tell them, hey, your name, your logo is going to be in the program. Your name, your logo will be on a T-shirt. Because guess what? We're still doing a Hall of Fame T-shirt, regardless if there's one sponsor or 10,000 sponsors. Right. You know what I mean? So you do little things like that, and you give them an experience to where they're thinking in the back of their mind, are thinking, I made a difference. Hey, I sponsored that cage match. You know what I mean? Look at that cage. It's got my name right on it. It says Gromy CDs and tapes or whatever it ends up being. I sponsored that. You make them feel that they're a part of what we're doing. And one thing I even changed this year, if you go back to previous years, I used to always say sponsors. Well, this year I said partners, because I want to promote your business too. You know what I'm saying? I want to partner up with you and promote your business, what you bring to the table. You know, like one of our new sponsors is a barbershop, and she's been open, I think, a year. She's been open a year, and I just kind of like a cold she's came to the shows. I know who she is, but, she's not one of them diehard, standing in, 10-degree weather fans. You know what I mean? She comes when she wants to come, whatever. But I approached her and I said, hey, you guys interested or whatever? This is what we can offer, blah, 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 blah. And she was all like, yep, no questions asked, whatever you need.
Nice.
And it's just one of those things where, guess what? Her logo, her business name, her, everything we do, press releases and, Facebook ads and posters and, whatever we can do, because theoretically we're doing all of that stuff to begin with. So guess what? Like say on the posters, you just you may not put every wrestler on there. You know what I mean? So now you got to leave a space for sponsors because you're still doing the posters. Yep. I mean, you're still doing the posters. So leave a little bit of space for, the logos or the name of the business or whatever. And you just, everything that you promise them, you 100% deliver or you just don't do it.
Right.
Everything you say you're going to promise them, you absolutely 100% do it. We actually got, I'll kind of tell you a little bit of a thing with how we've done things. I have a buddy named Rodney Ritchie, and he used to work for the local Humane Society here, dogs and cats places, OSPC or whatever place here. And I kind of friended him over the years where we did a fundraiser for him, and it was successful or whatever. Well, he's actually a preacher in his day-to-day life. And he actually sold merchandise for me for quite a few years. I've been, we've kind of friended each other over the years. Well, he actually lives in Tennessee now. And his church is actually sponsoring one of our matches, and they're all the way in Tennessee.
Really?
And nice. it was just the fact of the rapport that I had built up with him over the years. He knows what we've built. He knows what we've done. He knows what we've given back. And he was like, yeah, dude. He's like, no questions asked. And actually, the funny thing was he was the very first person to say yes and sent me the money. Nice. And he's 400 miles away. I got a guy in West Virginia, the Indie Connection or whatever. They do like some indie merchandise, and they're also doing the Slamos or whatever, which is the promos where the guys are doing promos on the fans or whatever. I know Josh Sampson and those guys are doing them or whatever. he does that, and then he also does like the Indie Connection, which he does merchandise for that. Like they did it, and then I got another place called Heel and Boot. Or Boot and Heel, excuse me. They came on board, and I think they're in like South Carolina, So, they just come on board because because they know that I'm going to advertise their business and hopefully they get some new customers out of it. And same way, like I said, I mentioned Gromies. He's a record store. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's like a walking encyclopedia of music, but he's been loyal to me for a long, long time. And the big shows, he's like, dude, whatever you need, you know what I mean? He's like, hey, here's, a couple $100 or $150, whatever, and it's just one of those things where you just got to deliver what you say you're going to deliver, and a lot of it, I'll be honest with you, a lot of it is a handshake agreement. But if it's somebody that I don't know, I have no problem with putting it all in writing and signing a contract. I have no problems about that because I know that my crew and or me will make sure that it happens. Yep. But yeah, but like I said, man, there's no right or wrong answer in all of this. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is trial and error, right. And a lot of it, me and you talked, and I know I've said stuff on another, podcasts or whatever, there is no training seminar, no whatever on being a promoter, owner, and a booker. There's none, it's trial and error. You know what I mean? Like, if I could go back and do things and redo things of, what I know now compared to then, I just had this conversation with somebody the other day. The very first show we ever ran, Donnie, looking back at it, was the Drizzling Shits. It was horrible. Yeah. It was. But here's the difference. We used our friends, we used our buddies, we used the guys that booked us on other shows. We did all those sort of things because it was the blind leading the blind. And the only saving grace that we had our very first show is we had a great crowd. We had 541 people our first show. Nice. You know what I mean? So, those standards were set, from the beginning, from day one. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want anything less than that. And it's not being cocky. It's not being arrogant because, Donnie, when you guys have had your biggest crowds, mm-hmm. you feel like you're on top of the world. Yep. When you have your smallest crowd, you're like, what did I do wrong? Right. But the common equation in all of that is it's the same amount of work if you draw 5 fans or 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand that. You know what I mean? Like, just because I have 100 pre-sale and I should have 300, don't mean I'm only putting half the ring up.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or I'm not gonna, have concessions, or you know what I mean? Like, hey, I only sold 200 tickets today, so we're not having water and soda for none of you guys. F you. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, people don't think about things like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same amount of work. Yep. And I guess I'm just very, very fortunate that I have the crew and I have the know-how and I have the quote unquote expertise. And Lord knows, like I said, I've made so many mistakes over the years and I've done things ass backwards. I've burned a lot of bridges. I'll be the first one to admit it. You know what I mean? That I've done things wrong, and it's cost me money. It's cost me family. It's cost me friends. It's cost me, a lot of things, so that's the reason why now, you're going to get the absolute 100% truth from me. And even if it's not what you want to hear, you're going to get it from me.
Yep.
So, but, like I said, that's the reason why I'm so happy that you're trying to make things work in Columbus. And, I love Columbus. We try to get down there as much as possible and hang out and, do things down there because, we lived basically down there for 10 years. And I know how hard it is. And then trying to get things off the ground and all of that, So, and to me, it's just about, like you said, making those right connections. And when the time comes, you guys got everything in place to pull it off, And that's the thing that a lot of guys don't think about it. They magically think you can book a building, and book some wrestlers and all the work's going to happen. And, I'm,
rude awakening.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Put it this way, if there's a magic fairy dust, man, I'd be the richest guy on earth because I went up and selling it, but, it's just one of those things where you just got to keep plugging away. Even during these times, it can be done. Mm-hmm. And, even like with some of our fairs and festivals, they don't know what's going on, and legally by law, like last year, for instance, I could have charged every single one of those fairs and festivals that canceled on us because we had a contract, but I didn't because they're in the same boat as us. You know what I mean? Yep. But the good thing about it is, they're all coming back on board for the most part this year, but there's still things up in the air. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, we can plan this fair and festival for, June, July, August, September, whatever, but that don't necessarily mean it's going to happen. But guess what? When they pull the trigger and say it is going to happen, you have to have everything ready to go.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
I know you are, so I know you're the same way as me.
Oh,
you got to be able to pull the trigger when it happens, and they may give you a 3-week notice. Hey, mm-hmm. It's still going on, and then boom, what are you going to do? So yeah, like I said, man, I love you guys to death, man. I appreciate all you guys. Hey, Jim, and I am glad that you go down there and see Cody Hawk and them or whatever. I actually like the building and stuff down there, and he's definitely got a cool thing going on down there, and it's kind of cool for you to see something else and all of that, because that's the one thing I like a lot of people to do, is experience independent wrestling and go to it, because it's truly the heart and soul of pro wrestling. It is, and not all wrestling is WWE and AEW and, Ring of Honor and all of that. These guys, put their minds, their bodies on the line, show after show after show for next to nothing most of the time. And it's all because it's for the love of doing it. And then once you get it ingrained in your heart, it's hard to walk away from it. And I'm sure you guys are the same way with the haunt stuff, because I know what you guys went through with the haunt stuff and not doing the haunt and all that last year and all that. I mean, it breaks your heart. But at the end of the day, you guys know that it's going to make you better. It's going to make you think outside the box even more. Mm-hmm. And you'll be able to overcome it, and you'll come back 10 times better, and that's the cool thing about it is, all of us to a degree that are in the quote unquote entertainment business, we're all survivors to a degree, because we do it because we love doing it, because Lord knows none of us are doing it for the money.
All right.
So it is what it is, man. But like I said, if you guys got any questions, before we hop off here, definitely hit me up or ask me. You got anything to say, Jim?
Well, I was going to say, we survive and we adapt regardless of the industry.
Yep.
It's because we do what we love. And, Donnie and I are in the unique position where we want to do both. Mm-hmm. And, we're doing one and until the other one comes back. And, and what you said about Cody earlier, they do a great show down there. I usually attend the second show on Friday nights.
Yeah, it's like 7 or 7:30 or something like that, 6:30, something like that.
Yeah, they do a 6:30 show and an 8:30 show.
Yeah, yep.
And it's a way for me. I still leave my house to go to work, but that's it. And it's a way for me to blow off some steam just by watching some indie wrestling, because I love indie wrestling because it's more accessible. You're not sitting thousands of feet away where you have to look at a jumbotron to watch a match when you can do it at home.
Right.
And I'm even working with an aspiring young wrestler that is starting training with Cody in June, and he absolutely loves independent wrestling. Absolutely can't get enough of it. Always looks for anything on YouTube that has to do with independent wrestling.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing, I think, and like we said, even like when I went down to the show with Cody and all that, those fans are having a good time, and that's the biggest thing is there may only be 40 people there, but guess what? Those 40 people are having the time of their lives, and that's all that matters. Nothing else matters at this point in time or whatever, because everyone keeps saying, this is the new normal, and unfortunately, there isn't anything normal about this now. I never in my wildest dreams thought at 47 years old, we would be going through something like this. You know what I mean? And, I sit there and I'm kind of like, if it's political, whatever, but guess what? It still affected people's lives. We even had one of our wrestlers up in Detroit. He had 3 family members pass away from it. People don't get that. You know what I mean? Like his I believe it was his dad, his uncle, and his cousin all went to a conference, preachers conference, and I think that he said that there was 30 of them, and out of the 30, 16 of them died.
Wow.
And one was his dad, one was his uncle, and one was his cousin. So you know what I mean? Like, it's real. You know what I mean? It's a real situation. Whether or not the media is, used it as propaganda or political or whatever. But at the end of the day, this has all affected people's lives. And if we can give them a haunt, or we can give them a pro wrestling event or whatever, and let them ease their minds for that 2 to 3 hours, I'm willing to jump on it every single day, 365 days a year, 24/7 to make sure that it happens. And I know you guys will do the exact same thing.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Tom, why don't you give us all your social media so people can find out more about War Wrestling and
right on
tickets, that kind of thing?
Right. Our business page is actually War Ohio. If you go on Facebook or whatever and just type in War Ohio, our logo will show up on it. And then you can also contact me through Twitter and all of that or whatever. It's War Wrestling on Twitter. And then even on Facebook, I have it's my page. It's got my real name, Thomas Williams or whatever, but it has our logo on it or whatever. I use that mainly for social media because a lot of the fans that, contact me through that. So anything like that, you know what I mean? Matter of fact, I don't even know. I want to say you can probably even contact me through email and all that. I think all of our emails are available on all of that. If they have any questions or concerns, or, I actually had a couple from Cincinnati last show who came to the show strictly because they seen pictures of our show for the COVID protocols. And they literally drove from Cincinnati because they're huge wrestling fans, and they literally bought 4 tickets, and it was strictly because of what we posted on social media of, hey, it's safe, hey, it's approved, by the state, by the county, blah, 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 blah. And they drove all the way from Cincinnati to the show, So that's one thing we try to do. We try to keep the fans informed on social media. We don't hide anything. Like Donnie was saying, you can go to any of our social media. All the pictures that we've done, the 3 shows we've done for social distancing are posted on all of our social media. We're not hiding anything. We're not magically, putting people asses and elbows together and not taking no pictures. It is what it is. You know what I mean? I'm not hiding from anything, but because I want to give people the peace of mind, that we can do the shows and we can pull them off and they could be successful. And like I said, they can contact me through any of the social media. If you type in, War Wrestling or War Ohio on any of the social media, 99% chance it'll pop up. I will say this, just kind of a side note. I do have my own personal page, which is actually my name, but it has my middle name, which is Thomas Allen Williams. I don't accept anybody for that. I can totally keep that stuff separate. No offense to anybody if they try to friend me on there and I don't know who you are and I delete you. But I just keep, I keep my social life, my professional life and my personal life totally separate. But anything War Wrestling, War Ohio, or Thomas Williams on Facebook or whatever, they can contact me through all those social media outlets.
Perfect. So I'm sorry, Donnie, do you have something?
Oh, no, that was perfect.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say that make sure you check out all of Tom's social media outlets. Don't try to friend request him at Thomas A. Williams. And while you're at it, don't forget to follow us, WrestleHorror, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WrestleHorror, as well as our YouTube channel and our website, WrestleHorror.com. I'm Meathook Jim with Donnie Hoover and our special guest, Big Tom Williams. This is the WrestleHorror Podcast. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media outlets, Facebook.com/WrestleHorror, Instagram at WrestleHorror, Twitter at WrestleHorror, on YouTube at the WrestleHorror channel. And you can also find us on our website, www.WrestleHorror.com.